Hello there. One of the very features that Empty Space has on PC is the destruction. So destruction is getting done in a lot of different ways in my game. Let me fix the issue I have here. One of which is using the chaos destruction, which is, to be honest, not completely production ready, but in some instances here and there you can actually go ahead and use it and it looks really good. So for example, look at the street light over here. If I shoot it like this, it will just crash all the way down, but this part here stays intact. I can just go ahead and shoot this one down, and eventually I can just break all the pieces. Or, for example, these barriers here, whereas in other instances that I'm using, the destruction is kind of more basic and old school, I would say. This is a really cool feature. So right now it was the showcase of the feature. Let's go ahead into the tutorial section of this one. Okay, so let's say we want to create a fractured piece out of this one. Okay, let me drag it all the way down. So it's pretty easy actually. So you go ahead in the selection mode into the fracture, new, just save it somewhere, I don't care. And then you can just go ahead and fracture it uniformly or in a cluster way. I don't like the cluster, so I just go ahead and use the uniform. These two numbers represent how detailed the fracture mesh will be. If you're not going to bake the animation, if you want everything to be dynamic, chances are you'll face issues with something like this. The problem is that it's completely calculated in CPU, so you have like really limited resources, so watch out for that. So in our case, let's go ahead and do something like 50. It's not that big, and fracture. And you can just test and see. Okay, we have that. It's completely ready. So right now let's go ahead in the I don't want the color, but I can't really find it. It was in the general show bone colors. We don't really want the colors, we need only this one. Okay, let me show you the result of this one, and then we'll go ahead into the more advanced stuff. Okay, I can just that's cool. Okay, so another thing is in the details panel of the fractured mesh. We come all the way down into the, why is everything not expanding, by the way? Yeah, I have to go ahead and check everything. I'm sorry for that. Okay, so if you want to do the notify breaks, if you want to do effects whenever they break, or if you want to do sounds, you have to make sure that notify breaks is on, and then you have to go ahead and create a blueprint for it. For my case, it's called BP Online Fracture Sound Manager. It manages the sound and effects all together, and it's there's a lot of resources on the internet for this one. Really good resources. This is a little bit advanced, so maybe in another video I can actually go in depth and talk more about that stuff, but this is that you can actually go ahead and do breaks and stuff. You don't need to take this one. The other one is really more than enough. Okay, another one that was really important, but I can't find it, is okay, collision profile per level. So we have a problem when we fracture something. When everything's fractured, they come off and actually stop the character from moving around, or they hinder the character's movement. They mess up everything gameplay wise, and to fix that we have to go ahead in the project settings, in the collision, under engine collision, and we have to add a new preset. Name is something I've called it fractured. Make sure you note the spelling, that's pretty important. Fractured, and it should ignore the pawn. So the logic is, when the mesh is not fractured, it's using the destructible, so this one right here. But when the mesh is fractured, then it will use the fractured collision, which ignores pawn, and the pawn can actually go through all the fractured pieces, which is really cool. Sometimes it's not needed. Sometimes you may want to actually stop the player from moving forward with the fractured pieces, but in most cases you have to just ignore the collision. So the index 0, you have to add index 0 is going to be destructible, and index 1 is what you've created, fractured. Sure. We didn't fracture this one based on different clusters. You can actually go ahead and do that. This is just, this has one level of clusters. If you have more, then you have to go ahead and add those as well. This video is about some basic stuff, and the fact that this feature is not completely production ready, it's not worth exploring it too much, to be honest. And this is all we have here right now. So another thing I wanted to do, for example, you have something that is, I mean, this one is really cool. It can stand on its own, but this one right here can't actually stand on its own, so we have to place anchors for it. And anchors are in the engine content editor resources field notes, fs underline anchor field underline generic. You can just drag and drop it into the scene. I have no idea how you can do that in the blueprints. I mean, I know how to do it in the construction nodes with the code, but I don't know how you can drag it. There's no such feature like that. You have to do it in code, so I had to do everything inside the map, which, I mean, it's a painful process. It's not so technical artisty, but here we are. There's nothing else we can do. And when you dragged it to the scene, you have to click on the geometry collection you've created, or the fractured mesh, and then come in the initialization fields, and then you have to add stuff and pick up stuff from the from this screen, and this way you can just anchor them on the ground. I can't really break this one. I can break anything I want from this, but I can't break this one really doesn't break. Another thing I wanted to tell you is, if you double click on the rest collection, you have something called remove on slip. This one's a really cool feature, but there's something like a bug or a limitation with it. If you use this feature, sometimes it's so weird. Sometimes if you shoot at something that has this feature on, it's really good for performance, by the way. If you shoot at it, sometimes it will just collapse, sometimes it will react realistically. So you have to test it case by case. It just makes sure that they get destroyed from the environment. Another thing I wanted to cover is how can we actually shoot on this stuff? How can we tell? I mean, I'm using a line trace, I'm getting a hit. How can I actually tell the system to break something? Okay, when you're doing the line trace, when you're hitting something, you have to spawn an actor. I've created a blueprint for it, but you can actually go ahead and spawn the FS underline master field. It's in the engine content editor resources field nodes. It's a better idea to do it inside an actor, inside a blueprint, because you have the option to change the strain magnitude. It's the power that so for example, you have a big wall. If the power is really high, the magnitude is really high, it will just explode everything out of the wall like a really big rocket. But if it's a low number, and if you have enough fractured pieces to get out of the geometry collection, then you have something like a really small bullet, like a really realistic small bullet that you can just hit a wall, and then a piece of the wall will just get out, fall off on the ground. But since we really have to care about the performance, we can't really go really in full detail with this stuff, and that's why this is the number I'm going with. And I'm doing it inside the blueprint. I'm spawning the blueprint in the location and rotation. I'm hitting, I'm using the make rot from Z. You can use make rot rotation from X vector as well. Doesn't matter, both of them work really well. And location is the location of the hit result too. And this is everything I wanted to tell you about the effect and sound management stuff. That's definitely another video, or that's a little bit of more in depth of a video. I hope it was helpful, and I wish you a great day. Bye.